Hi everyone, I'm going to talk to you today about our second geography challenge of the week, which is going to be all about countries near the equator. Now, if you don't know what the equator is, don't worry because you'll find out by the end of this video. So I'm going to show you some information about countries near the equator and how the weather is there. So our objective is going to be to compare weather in countries near the equator to weather in the United Kingdom and how it's different. Okay, so right, we've got some pictures and I just want you to have a think about these things. So it says, in which seasons might you do these? And we've got lots of different activities that the children are doing. Here we've got some children sledding down a hill. We've got a little girl or boy in a pile of leaves. We've got ice skating. We've got gardening and planting, looking after the garden. Looks like we've got a picnic and some camping, and we've got a barbecue. So have a little think, either by yourself, you could talk to an adult, you could talk to a grown another person in your house, or you could even talk to one of your toys and just tell them what you think. Okay, so the first picture, we're going to be doing that when it's snowy. So it's going to be in winter, isn't it? That would be the season. The leaves, when they all fall down from the trees, that's going to be in autumn because that's when the leaves fall down and they go those beautiful crunchy browns, yellows and reddy colours. Ice skating, we normally do that around Christmas time, so that's winter as well. Even though it's not real ice that's set from the weather, it's normally done in winter. We've got the gardening, that would normally be spring or summer, probably doing the planting in spring and then looking after the plants in summer. The picnic and camping, probably summer, normally during the summer holidays from school, and again a barbecue would normally be in summer as well. So the country that we're going to be looking at in more detail today is called Singapore. And we're going to be looking closely at the weather there. And Singapore is a country in Southeast Asia and it's near the equator. Now you can see on my globe, even though it's not a 3D globe, it's just a 2D one, you can see that the equator is a line. It's an invisible line. It's not a real line. You can't really see a line if you were in Singapore. It's a line that goes all the way through the middle of the globe and all the way around it as well. So it's a straight line that goes all the way around, and you can see it on maps as well. It's a line that cuts the top half, which is called the northern hemisphere, and the bottom half, which is the southern hemisphere, and it's the line that's in the middle of those. So if you've got a map or a globe at home, have a look and see if you can find Singapore on it. Okay. Right, I'm going to show you now on a map where it is. It's a really small country and it's in Asia, like we said before, and it's close to the countries of Malaysia, which is here, and Indonesia, which is here, the kind of purpley coloured islands. Now, Singapore is just this, can you see where the arrow's pointing? It's that tiny, tiny dot that you can see. So it's a very small country. It's much smaller than Malaysia and Indonesia, but you can see that it's very close to the equator, as is Malaysia and Indonesia as well, which are all Asian countries. So it's a very, sorry, just a second. It's a very unusual place because it's made up of lots of islands. It's not just one big country, it's lots of little islands, and you can see them here on, if you look at the map, we've got Jorong, we've got Sudong, we've got Pawai, Bukom, Sentosa, and you can see Ubin, and all of the little tiny islands that are joined up to make the country of Singapore. But it's something called a city-state, which means that there are no other towns or cities in it, in the country. It's just one city, and that is the whole country, and it takes up all of the land. And if you want to have a little closer look at the map, you can see some of the islands and areas of the city. So now I'd like you to think about what you think the weather might be like in Singapore and how it might be different to the weather in the United Kingdom. So don't worry if you're not sure, but just have a think about how it might be different. Thinking about the fact that it's further south in the United Kingdom and it's right near the centre of the globe. So have a little think about what you think the weather might be like there. Okay, I'm going to give you some clues now. So here's some pictures of people on the streets of Singapore, and I want you to think about what you can learn from these pictures about the weather. So in the first one, let's look at what the people are wearing and have a look at the sky. The sky looks quite blue, it's got a few clouds in it, but people are wearing shorts and t-shirts, aren't they, most of them? I can see a few people with hats on as well, so think about what the weather might be like when you wear shorts, t-shirts, dresses, sandals and hats. It's going to be quite a hot place, isn't it, we can guess. And over here as well, it looks like it's night time here, but again the people are wearing dresses, shorts, t-shirts. So if it's night time and they're wearing those kind of clothes, it looks like it's hot again, doesn't it? Down here, the people are at a market. They're looking at lots of different things. Same as in this picture up here, they're looking at some clothing in the market. And again, they look like they're quite hot because they're wearing shorts, t-shirts, dresses, sandals. Okay, so we can tell it's a hot place. Now over here, even though it still looks like there's quite blue skies, there's people carrying umbrellas, so that suggests that it's still quite rainy even though it's hot. Okay, and those things are all true about Singapore. It's a very hot place, but it does rain a lot as well, and we'll learn a little bit more about it in a moment. But I want you to think as well about some of the activities that you could do if you were in Singapore, because what you're going to be doing after this video is writing a diary, pretending that you've been to Singapore and telling me what kind of things you did. So you might have gone to visit a market, you might have gone to the shops. I can see there's markets at night time. You might have gone to look at the lanterns that are in this nighttime market. Okay, so these are some activities that you might have done if you were there. Now in Singapore, there are lots of beautiful parks and beaches with tropical plants and animals. Now, what can you learn about the weather from these pictures? And maybe you might have heard of the word tropical before. Have a think about what that suggests about the weather as well. And also have a think about some of the activities that you can do there as well. So it says that there's plants and animals, so you might want to go and look at those. There's beautiful parks and beaches as well for you to go and visit. So we can see that the weather, again, looks really quite bright. There is a few clouds in the sky, but it looks quite bright and sunshine, and the sun's shining and it's quite hot, and still a few clouds as well. But in order for the land to be so green, think about what else needs to happen a lot, because we can't just have lots and lots of sunshine and having beautiful green plants, green tropical plants like that. We also need a lot of water. So the water is going to come from the rain. So there is a lot of rain in Singapore, and that's what helps the tropical plants to grow. So because Singapore is near the equator, it stays warm all year round. So even in winter, it's still warm there. So people rarely need to wear a coat or a jumper if you're going to Singapore, even in winter, okay? And it's warm at night time, in the daytime, all day for the whole year. The reason that lots of tropical plants grow there is because it is sunny, warm, and very wet. Most months it rains on almost half of the days. So even though it's hot outside, there's still lots of rain coming down. And we had that last week. It was or a couple of weeks ago when it was really, really hot. Lots of rain came down at the end of the week, which was nice because it was so hot, but it still felt warm outside. It felt quite humid, okay? And that's what it would feel like in Singapore, kind of hot, but also wet, okay? So instead of having 4 seasons in Singapore, they only have 2 seasons. So we have spring, summer, autumn, winter. In Singapore, they only have 2 seasons because the weather doesn't change much, and the seasons are all about the weather changing. So they have the monsoon season, which is where there's lots and lots of wind and lots and lots and lots and lots of rain. And that's from November to January, where it rains even more than normal, but it still feels really, really hot as well. Okay, so that's some information about the weather, and that's the same in countries all around the equator. There's only 2 seasons, and it feels really hot, but also really wet there. So for your task now, after you've watched this video, I'm going to be asking you to write a diary as if you've been on holiday to Singapore. I want you to tell me in your diary about what the weather was like there, and most importantly, you need to say why it's like that as well. So you can explain why it's hot all the time, why it rains, why there's only 2 seasons there, and things like that for me in your diary. I also want you to tell me about some activities that you did there. So have a look back through the pictures that you've seen and things that you saw there as well. So you could talk about the tropical plants and animals that you've seen. Tropical plants are just plants that need really, really hot and really, really wet places in order to grow. So they wouldn't grow in England because it's not hot enough. It's very wet in England, but it's not hot enough. Okay, so I want you to do that for me and then send us your diary entries on Seesaw. But you could also, if you wanted to, you could record yourself reading your diary if you want, so you don't have to actually write it down. It's up to you. There's lots of different ways for you to do it. There is an example on there for you to look at to help you, and for children that work with Mrs. Seagrave and Mrs. Barker for English to use to help them. But other children can look at that as well to get some ideas, and there's some words that I'd like you to try and include in your diary entries as well and make sure they're spelled correctly. Okay, so I'll be looking forward to reading those, and I will see you next week for some more videos. Bye.